Hello. Hi everyone. Good morning everyone. I myself, Dr. Rangalal Mahapatra, I welcome all of you to my YouTube channel Microeconomics Online Lesson by Rangalal. So I first of all thank you all of you for watching my video about the introduction and the preface of the subject. In this video, I will upload about the basic ideas of economics, that is what is economics all about, how economists think about economics, that we'll discuss in this video. So whenever we study any subject, it is not that the subject has come into the present form within a day or overnight. Just like Rome was not built in a day, like that the subject, any subject, whether it is economics, whether it is science, whether it is arts, whether it is commerce, any particular subject, no subject has coming into existence within a day or within a night or within a few days. Similarly, the economics subject which we are studying is not the subject which has not come into existence within a day. It has a long history which has been studied by many economists, and many economists they have put into all those ideas into a compact form through which we are getting into the subject, and that's why we study the subject. So coming into the present topic, that is what economics is about. First, we will take into consideration how these economic ideas came into existence. Generally, whenever the human being come into the earth, whenever its appearance came into the earth, the human being has been struggling with so many problems of survival. That means everybody was suffering from the problem of how to survive, or it was the question of survival of the human being. So that's why the survival of the human being is not as an individual but as a member of the society. So therefore, this continuous existence proves that it has been succeeded partially, because despite this success, so many problems like misery, inequalities, poverties are existing till today also. Therefore, we can say that even though the human being has devised so many things to guard against the problem of the survival, still there are so many problems are there, and that is why the human being is not able to fully solve the problem. And the history shows that there are three ways to guard this problem of human existence. This was the first one is the organization of society, that the human being formed a society, that is coming into existence with so many individuals. They form a society with a particular objective, and through that objective they solve their problem unitedly. Secondly, the tradition and culture also played an important role in solving those problem of human existence. Thirdly, the occupation by caste, especially if we consider our Indian society, the Varnashrama system in our Vedic system, that it says that the entire work of the society has been distributed on the basis of this Varna, that is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. So every Varna or the caste was assigned a particular task or particular occupation with which it becomes specialized, and that specialization gives him the name of a particular caste. So in this way, the economist, we are not in that stage to discuss about the problem of human existence. So the society, the people itself, they solve the problem. But what happened next when the market system started, because of the beginning of the property right? So everybody was interested of their own advantages or self-interest, and everybody was doing his best with reference to its monetary advantages. So it was not the system of exchange, but a mechanism for sustaining and maintaining the entire society. So market mechanism is just not exchange of something for something, but it was considered as a mechanism, as a way, as a tool for sustaining of the society and maintaining of the society. So the life in the market system was only based on the principles of transactions, and gain, and gain. So this was the development from the simple living to a market system where the people were self-oriented with the motive of profit or gain or some kind of benefits. So if we go by that idea, then we can see that the classical Greek period provides enough clue regarding these economic ideas. Therefore, we must understand the evolution of these ideas from the Greek society or from the Greek civilization, and that's why we should study the history of economic thought or tradition of economic thought. So if we go by some of the famous economists like Joseph Schumpeter, his history of economic thought, he says that we should study history of economic thought because it helps us the older author and older views acquire importance when the methods of economic research are undergoing revolutionary change. So that means we will find out what were the older people have said and what are the older views and what are their importance when there are some changes are coming. Secondly, it also prevents from following wrong path during the time of economic crisis. Whenever the society faces any kind of economic crisis, at that time these thoughts of the economist helps us or guides us to choose a right path. So in economics, we need the scholars who specialize in keeping us aware and able to recognize the earlier contributions. So the modern economics, if we go by the literature, the modern economics has begun with the publication of Adam Smith's An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nation. So now, the classical Greek economic thoughts is actually explained by the scholars. The Greek scholars were first to write on the problem of practical philosophy like ethics, politics, and economics. So we are not going to the details of the how this ethics, politics, and economics and philosophy are combined, but we should only understand how the economic ideas was originated in this Greek civilization. So this is proved by the work of on wealth, that is Perry Pluto, and on household economics like Perry Oikonomia. So oikonomia referred to material organization of the household and of the estate, and the financial discourses of the city state, which was called police state. So the word oikonomia comes from two words. One is oikos and another is nemen, which means household, to deal out with a discipline. So according to J.J. Rousseau, the word economics comes from oikos means house and the nomos means the law. So this oikonomia denotes the wise and legitimate government of the house for the common benefit of the whole family, and later on the term has been extended to the government of the great family, which is the state. So that means it is considering the household as a government, and when the household becomes large, it becomes a state. So it was basically referring to the household management. So in primary sense, oikonomos means house manager. So oikonomos is house manager. Oikonome means the manage a household, and oikonomia refers to the art or science of household management. So oikonomia, from which actually we are getting the word economics, refers to the art or science of household management. So the use of the term oikonomia has also upgraded and modified by the subsequent time period. Like Socrates also was discussing or used this term oikonomia, which discusses or which tells about how to manage the affairs of the oikos, that is how to manage the household affairs. Then another writer, Xenophon, who wrote Oikonomicus, discussing about the proper economic actions and activities, responsibilities of the head of the oikos. So it generally focuses on the activities, the management capacities of the house. So he developed interesting ideas of individual decision maker. In an effort to interpret economia, Xenophon describes three kinds of relationship between the members of oikos. That means within the household, how the economic relationship built on. So the relationship between husband and wife, it was called gamike. The relationship between father, mother, and children was technopolitike. The relationship between head of the household, that is kyrios, and the domestic slaves, it is doloi. Next is Aristotle, who is a famous philosopher. He told that the man is primarily a political animal, that is zoon politikon. In addition to this, he also said man has another dimension as a member of the oikos because he is a member of the house. That's why he is called economic animal, and the man is not only political but also a household animal, that is economicon zoon. According to Aristotle, there are three relationships in the oikos. Like master and slave, this is despotike, man and wife, gamike, father and children, technopolitica, which Xenophon also has argued. So these three relationships and the existence of the budget consist of the economic institution. That means the financial aspects of the house is also included in this household managers. So which is known as economicon syntagma. Next, the new meaning, slowly some new ideas were added to this existing idea, like sophist brought the idea of how to be virtuous, and that concept of virtuousness, the youth should use good judgment in order to order his house, to manage all the household affairs better than before by teaching them to ask the why and how and what of the even smallest thing. So that means everybody should understand why they are doing the things, for they are doing, and how they should do. So that means a concept of morality or normative aspect was added because of sophist. Then the economic thought during Hellenistic period was the term oikonomia designated that control of household's internal areas which was left only to the wife, and the external affairs of the oikos, that is the political activities, was left to the man's affair. That means at that time the internal affairs were only limited to the ladies, and the external affair, that is the political activities, was left to the man or the male persons. So the second one is this oikonomia implies man's management of his property. So it also refers to the management of property as a master of the house. Then the third one is the philosopher's management of his own possessions. The philosopher has its own idea, own knowledge, own argument. So that also comes under this oikonomia. Then the next one is how to organize the handling of the police. That means how the state should be organized, and therefore takes on a meaning closer to the modern concept of political economy. That's why the concept of oikonomia was slowly coming closer to the idea of political economy. So in the first century, by political economy means public and civil administration. So now we'll study what exactly this economics is about and how what the economists they define. So for a long time it was convenient to pretend that the subject had been invented by Adam Smith. Generally we feel he is the father of economics because of his compact written document in his book in 1776. And then we can say in general that economics is defined somewhat very casually or facetiously as what economists do. That means what economists are doing is nothing but economics. Similarly, some other definitions are there which ideas are it studies the mankind in the ordinary business of life, or it discusses the material welfare of the human being. So there are so many definitions. If there are 5 economists, there are 6 definitions. Therefore, it is very difficult to give a exact and definition which will cover every aspect of economics. But if we consider the branch of economics, that is economic theory or economic analysis, then it can say, or we can say that the economics is the study of the process by which the scarce resources are allocated towards the achievement of diverse competing objects. So that means if we interpret this sentence, that economics is nothing but it studies the human behavior in economic activities, how the human being behaves with respect to the economic activities, and that activities is the choice of buying and selling or consumption and production. So these are all the choices, and it is the study, or economics is the study of people's choice regarding how to use the scarce resources which have its alternative uses. So choices is not money. It is the unifying feature of all the things that economists study. In fact, economists think that the human behavior as the outcome of the choice making. So when the human being faces the situation of scarcity with respect to the resource use, his behavior becomes something unique, and that behavior is actually as the outcome of the choice making. So to define economics is all about choice. So we must define who is the economic agent, who makes choices, and it is the economic agent who makes the choices about the use of the resources. So we should define these two terms: what is economic agent and what is resource, what is scarcity. An economic agent is an individual that makes choices. So it is any individual who makes choices is an economic agent. But it is not all economic agents are individual. There are also groups like government, like firms, like university, like colleges, like political party, like a household, like a labor union, like a trade union, like so many things are there who act in the group, but they take a particular decision on choice making. So they, even though they are not individual, but they are treated to be as an individual economic agent. So the second one is the allocation of scarce resources. So we must understand what is resource. Resources are the things that people want, where the quantity that the people want exceeds the quantity that is available. So that means resources are the things which people are using for the satisfaction or for the production, use of their production. But what they want, the whatever the resources they want, actually it is more than that what is available. So that is why the next point is the concept of scarcity. So scarcity is actually a relative concept. It is a situation which shows that the people have unlimited wants in comparison to the availability of the resources. Thus, economics is the study of how the economic agents choose to allocate the scarce resources that have alternative uses, and how these choices affect the society. That is very important. If we study only that how people will make choice, then that doesn't have any meaning to anybody for studying this subject. So we are studying that how these choices also affect the other individuals, the society, and any other things. So therefore, we must understand why economic agents make choices. So the choices actually, the problem of choices arises because of the scarcity of resources. If there is no scarcity, people will not make choices. If we will be given enough resources or unlimited amount of resources, like suppose if we will be given unlimited amount of gold, nobody will think of gold. Gold will be very valueless, or it will be simply a free goods because it will be available, just like the river, water in the river. In the river, if you go in the river and choose water, nobody will stop you. You can take any amount. But the moment that water comes to the pipe for the distribution, it becomes scarcity because many people want more, but the availability is less. So that's a scarcity is a relative concept and it is a situation. So then, what is the reason why we study this choice decision making or decision making of choice? Now, because it describes what the people do. When we describe or discuss or analyze the choice behavior of the individuals or of the groups, it will tell you what the people do and how they behave. And this is what called the positive economics. This is the approach when you study what people are doing, how they are behaving whenever there is scarce resources or whenever they face the market situation, how they behave. This is the positive approach. So it is actually telling you what the people they do and how they behave. But the other aspect also is the things is the study of choice making also recommends what people ought to do, whether people should cheat, whether people should purchase whenever the other people are not getting. So there are so many questions of normative economics are there, which is in the form of whether we should do it or not, whether society should reduce inequalities or not, whether poverty should be reduced or not, whether unemployment should be reduced or not, whether price level should be controlled or not. These are the topics or the statements which are of normative nature. So therefore, when you study this subject, it has also its scope and its this subject distinguishes or makes itself different from other social science subjects or other subjects because of the three important things. That is optimization, which is known as the first principle of economics. So economists say that optimization explains most of the choices of individuals and the economic units. That means whenever one individual or a group they make choices, that choice problem is nothing but a mathematical problem of optimization. So they optimize the objectives with respect to certain constraint. For example, a particular individual try to maximize his or her utility subject to a budget constraint. Similarly, this optimization also leads to minimization of the objective function subject to a budget constraint. And for example, we minimize the expenditure of the consumer subject to a given utility function or given utility. The second principle of economics is equilibrium. This is also very important. It shows that the system tend to be in equilibrium. That is a situation in which no agent would benefit personally by changing his or her own behavior. That means whenever equilibrium is attained in the society, every individual optimizes their choice making behavior. So every individual optimizes their objectives. So that means, so when there is equilibrium, not only the individuals are optimizing their objectives, the society also optimizes its objective. The third principle of economics is empiricism. It gives emphasis on empiricism, means empirical analysis, which is based on the analysis of the data, the practical observed data, which we get from the evidence or which observed in our surroundings. So therefore, these are the three important principles. The first one is optimization, second one is equilibrium, third one is empiricism. These are the three important principles which makes economics different from other social sciences subjects. Similarly, now we should study this economic method. That means what methods are used really to study about this economics analysis. How do we do this analysis? So empiricism is the key to all scientific analysis. Like it is so empiricism is a scientific process, is the name for the ongoing process that economists and other social scientists and natural scientists use to develop a model of the world. So the empiricism or empirical methods or models are used to develop a model which can reveal the real world either fully or in a very approximate manner. So secondly, this empiricism or empirical model or method is used to test those models with the data, evaluating the models that between model and the data, whether the data and the model they are different, whether whatever the model we are forming, is it revealing the reality or is it different from the reality. If it is different from the reality, again we come to the data, we collect the data, we verify the model and we modify the model. So then the question is, what is a model? How we should go for the model? So it is a model is a simplified description or representation of the world. So whenever we describe something, it gives certain kind of relation or a cause and effect relation between two things or among many things. So sometimes economists refer to a model as a theory. So all scientific models make predictions. What the model they do? They predict that can be checked with the data. That means whether when the model is made or a statement is made, that statement is whether it is really true or not, that has been tested with the observed data collected by the investigator, the researcher. So they collect the data, they verify the statement or the representation of the model. So therefore this model actually helps to predict the reality, whether the model is really applied to the reality or not. So the model is based on certain assumptions. So the first stage of the model or the first step of a model is assumptions, and this model will help for good prediction. So then we should understand that this assumption also helps other implications, like that is, suppose we say that 2 years of investment on education will increase earning by 21% and so on. Suppose this is the assumption we are making, that is, we are assuming some relationship between education and the earning. Then we can relate this assumption to any number of years of investment education. That means if a person has completed 20 years of education, what could be the earning? This is the implication. So it means that model is an approximation. So we make an approximate statement or a very close statement to the reality. Secondly, the model makes prediction. So that model, through the assumption, we collect the data, we verify the data, and on that basis we do prediction. And the one method to determine whether this education raises income or not, that how do you collect the data? This is actually based on a controlled method of investigating the causal relationship as variables. So we take variables and we see whether the variables are related with a cause and effect or not, because there is a difference between causal relationship and only relationship. So only relationship tells you how they are correlated, but it does not say which is affecting how much the other variable. So therefore, in a control method, we are doing experiment or we are studying the causal relationship between the variables, in which the economist create a treatment group or called test group and a control group, where the participants are assigned randomly to those groups. That means the economists do not choose them with their own judgment, but they take it randomly. Somebody can be a part of the test group or a part of the control group. So this process is called randomization process. So if you don't have budget, suppose somebody doesn't have the time, doesn't have the resource, doesn't have the enough money and manpower, then what he can do? Then he can go for a natural experiment, that is to study this fact, that is the relationship between education and earning, through the historical data. What the historical event shows, that whether education leads to any kind of capacity improvement and thereby it raises the income or not, that will do this. So then we'll understand what is the role of this economic theory. The role of economic theory bears the same relation to the other branches of economics, such as economic history or economic institutions, as geometry does to a surveying. So whenever a person does a survey method or surveying for any kind of area, so their geometry is most important tool to be used. Similarly, the economic theory is used by the any kind of economic analysis. So the economic theory provides logical framework or a skeleton in relation to which the necessarily inexact and incomplete observation of the real world can be apprehended with greater insight. There are something which we cannot see it, we cannot understand directly, we cannot observe it clearly. Therefore, we write or we do some proposition, we do certain assumption, we make some theory, and with that theory that makes a skeleton of the body or of entire things, through which we can actually have greater insight, greater in-depth thinking about the subject. So this economic theory consists of system of logical relationship between certain sets of assumptions and the conclusions derived from them. So then when we do this, the selection of assumption is very, very important in the model or in the making a theory or making the model. So if the premises or the conclusions do not correspond to the reality, then the theory is not very useful, but it does not mean that we should invalidate the theory. Because if we say that, okay, some assumptions are not correspond to the reality, you cannot say that, okay, the theory is not good or it is not valid. You cannot invalidate. Again, you can go for the re-verification, you can go for again a further empirical studies, you collect the data again. So the first sequence of constructing the economic theory is the selection of the set of assumptions or postulates. So one can make quite realistic assumptions or extremely simple and tractable, and from which a long chain of interesting corollaries may be made. For example, the classical quantity theory of money is based on the assumption that the individual should spend and invest their income as fast as they conveniently could. That means the velocity of money is constant. But these assumptions are incapable of providing the business cycle problem of the developing countries. But that doesn't mean that we should invalidate the class quantity theory of money. Still, we are using the quantity theory of money. So what it does, it provides better incentive, better thinking power to go for further detail why this is invalidated, whether the assumptions are wrong or whether the methods are wrong or whether the predictive capacity of these assumptions are not there. Thus, the problem is to select basic assumptions that will be capable of producing a logically deduced propositions sufficiently realistic so that it will have resemblance to the reality. So this is about the things which I have covered. I told you what is economics, what is economics, what the economists think about this, how it is defined, and how the economic subject is really studied, and how the theory is really formed. And the next topic, next video which I will consider, in that I will discuss about the central problems of the economy, the subject microeconomics and its themes, its tools, how it is related to macroeconomics, and the role of microeconomics in economic theory. So I hope you will understand, you will watch this video, you will try to listen carefully, and you will try to understand the things. It will definitely help you in understanding the subject. If any kind of further improvement or suggestions are there, if you think, you are welcome to provide the suggestions, you provide your feedback so that I will improve upon it, and definitely I will come to your rescue to solve the problems, and I will improve also the quality of this material. So thank you everybody, thank you very much. I wish all the best, and I request all of you to watch this video, and then you share the video, you like the video, and press subscribe the video. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody. I hope all the best to everybody. Thank you.